Hello, everyone, and welcome to CEOera Conversations, an involved experience within the Boss Woman Network podcast. I'm your host, Leilani. Um, this platform was created for women leaders who are choosing to build from a self-first foundation, prioritizing alignment, clarity, and well-being as the starting point for sustainable success. Here we have intentional conversations with women who are building meaningful businesses, creating impact, and redefining leadership on their own terms. Today's guest is Kuzhani Koketso, founder of Identity Cove, an AI education and consulting company focused on helping non-technical professionals understand and use AI in practical and accessible ways. What I love about her story is she did not come from a traditional tech background. She built this business from curiosity, resilience, and a desire to make AI understandable in plain English. Her journey includes law, climate policy work, people operations, an MBA, HR certification, a layoff, and now building AI products without a coding background. Kuzhani, welcome to CEOS Conversations. Um, Thank you for joining me. So before we go and jump into the conversation, I want to start with something simple like, how are you and what season are you currently in today?
Thank you, Leilani. And wow, what a lovely introduction. Um,
Welcome.
yeah, it's such a pleasure for me to be joining you as well. Definitely delighted to share my story and yeah, get to chat with you. So definitely thank you so much for having me.
You're
Um,
welcome.
yeah, and I think to answer your question, I think I'm currently in a season of adventure. I
Hmm.
just got back from a week-long trip to North Carolina with four girlfriends.
Oh,
And
cool.
yes, and we were exploring. And part of the reason I took time out was because 2026 is just a year of curiosity and adventure for me. So anything that stretches me mentally, physically, socially, and otherwise, I'm just, it's my year of yes in that regard. So definitely like exploring and just trying this and that in small ways and in big ways. So definitely enjoying myself.
I love it. You've had such an interesting path from law in, is it Botswana,
Yes.
to climate policy work at the UN, to HR and people operations, and now AI strategy. Walk us through that journey. And who are you and who were you before Identity Code?
Yeah, thank you. So, I'm natively from Botswana. It's a tiny country in Southern Africa for those who don't know. And yeah, very small country. So I've always been an advocate for people. I've always loved people. I've always been that girl who will see something wrong happening and want to speak up, whether it's happening to me or someone else. So I think law was just the next best thing for me after high school. So in Botswana, the law degree is 5 years. So I then did 5 years of law school. But midway at like the third year mark, I knew for sure that I did not want to practice law in the traditional
Mm,
sense, being like litigation, etc. I'd always been interested in like policy and human resources. However, I think at the time I just didn't have the language to say, I think I want to do human resources. Also coming from a traditional African background like mine, where your parents think it's either law or medicine or engineering when you talk of degrees. So yeah, so I'd always thought I'd follow a path of like human resources or psychology along those lines. And what I love about a law degree is it's very versatile in that regard.
mm.
So one of the internships I took in my within the 5 year degree was an employment law internship. And I think that's when my heart for human resources was really cemented and identified. So yeah, did that, finished, and then I had an opportunity to travel to China for a young women's policy meeting sponsored by the United Nations.
Wow.
And then just when I got back, that opened a door and a conversation with them where they said, "Hey, we actually need a research assistant on the programmatic team for climate policy." So yeah, roles were defined around there, and then I started working with them. I was there for close to 4 years before like moving on when my contract ended and the program was being phased out. So then I joined the marketing, did marketing for my aunt's company. And then within a year or so later, I then felt like, hey, I just want to know what's out there. I'd always spoken about having an international life and living internationally, and I just thought, hey, I want to explore what's out there. And I'd reached that point in my life where I felt a bit stuck, if I could say, especially mentally
Yeah.
stuck. So then I moved to the US, and fun fact, I was actually born in the United States. My parents met here when they were in grad school. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, so moving here was almost like a full circle moment of, hey, you're born here, parents moved back home to raise a family, and now you're moving back on your own. So yeah, moved back. Shortly after I arrived, about a month or two later, the pandemic hit, which just became an entire reset.
oh, yes.
Yes, that then just became an entire reset for me in terms of, hey, what do you want to do? And just rebuilding. So I didn't just rebuilt, went to school, got my MBA, concentrated in human resource management, worked in human resources before getting laid off in August 2025.
Mm.
And then took 3 months off and just decided, hey, initially I'd been applying for jobs, etc. But then in doing that, I had then just, as I was just exploring, because I'm a very curious girl. So as I was exploring and what I learned about vibe coding, and I thought, hey, based on my own experience, let me build resources for people who've been laid off. A lot of people get laid off, and yes, you get a severance package or you get whatever parting package you're getting, but many people don't know, like, when do I apply for unemployment? What are the rules by state? What am I entitled to? Or what are the next steps? So I thought, hey, why don't you build like a tech product? And then I discovered, vibe coding products, tried this and that, but didn't take anything to market. Um, Explored like offboarding consulting with companies before I realized that I had so much fun at 3 a.m. with my laptop open building products. That's when I felt most alive. And then,
Mm.
yes, so then after traveling to Uganda this year, February, which was like 3, 4 months ago, I came back with a resolve to say, hey, just go for it. Pivot fully
Mm.
into the AI space and see where that takes you. So I'm currently in those early stages with Identity Cove, teaching non-technical people how to strategize, how to automate their workflows, and how to vibe code products or apps and things like that. Um, I should say here, and I know I've spoken a lot so far, but I should say what also cemented it for me was in April, I came across a hackathon at Georgetown University, a healthcare AI hack. Just raised my hand, applied. We assembled a team, got there, fully non-technical. And my role on the team was vibe coding the actual platform that we demoed live in front of the judges, which was like doctors and industry professionals and industry leaders, um, and building the voice agent that was within the platform. So our team and our product won the Innovation Award.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and I think that for me was just like a nod to say, continue being curious, continue building in this space, continue on with your adventurous spirit and see where it takes you. So currently on that journey.
I love that. That is an amazing story and journey. Now, I can definitely see how you made that pivot, and that was definitely an eye opener. That would have been an eye opener for me. You got into that space and then you won an award. Yeah, most definitely. So I wanted to ask you, where in the United States were you born?
So I was born in Ithaca in New York State.
Oh,
Yes, my mom was in graduate school at Cornell at the time.
mm.
So yeah, yeah.
And so is that where you are now, back in New York?
No, I'm currently in Philadelphia. So,
Ah,
yes, when I moved to the US, my young brother was a student here at Penn. So, moving to Philly was almost like a no-brainer,
oh,
even though
okay.
he's now graduated last year and moved back home. Yeah.
Okay. So did you always know that entrepreneurship was in you, or was this the pivot that made you realize that you're really an entrepreneur? It was your path.
I would say yes. And I think the lesson for me here is that we always know, but sometimes we're afraid to take those leaps. So,
Mm,
from a very young age, I was raised by a strict father. And in our home, children don't just sit around doing nothing,
mm,
especially around school holidays and what he always said. An idle mind is the devil's workshop. No, I want kids who are busy. Kids who are not busy end up getting idle and getting into the wrong crowds and stuff. So we
right.
always worked. I had a family. There was a couple of my relatives who ran an institutional catering business. So we always worked in school during school holidays, waitressing, washing dishes in the kitchen, that kind of work. And then
Uh-huh.
what became the entrepreneurial hint, I think, for me was we had fruit trees in our backyard that my dad made us sell. So each time
Oh,
when the fruits got ripe, he would make us package those oranges and naartjies and lemons and then sell them first to relatives and then to people at the church or otherwise. So I think that then just seeing yourself trade, giving someone something and receiving money for it does something to your brain. And then you think, oh, people
mm.
actually want what I have to offer, So I think, and then I think also my parents, they retired quite early to pursue entrepreneurial interests.
Oh, okay.
Yes, and I think seeing their journey as well, I'd be going to work and to school, and then I'd see my parents still home. And then like they'd be able to do stuff during the day at their own leisure or be there for us in certain ways. And then I thought, wow, time freedom is actually something I aspire to, hopefully sooner than they did it. But so yeah, time freedom has always been a value of mine. And I think that's why when the layoff came around, I immediately thought maybe this, I just had a strong, I would, some people call it a gut feeling, but I just had a strong sense
Mm.
to say, perhaps this is a time to throw caution to the wind, jump off that cliff and
And
see where
just
it
go.
takes you. Yeah.
That was my next question for you, because you mentioned that you got laid off in 2025, and that was like your major turning point, because many women tie their identity to their careers, and what did you experience that taught you about identity, worth, and starting over to just go like that?
That's a great question. And it actually speaks to the foundation of the name of my consultancy, Identity Cove.
Mm,
Because when I got laid off, in as much as I had been feeling stuck for some time and feeling like I needed a change, what shocked me was after getting laid off, my identity took a knock that I didn't see coming. And I realized that when you're in circles or when you're at networking events, one of the first things people ask you is, what do you do?
yes.
And then I realized that now I'll be in spaces where when people ask me that question, I won't have anything to say. Uh,
Oh,
and I think I was taking a walk. I vividly remember the day I was taking a walk and it hit me. And I just said out loud, just talking to myself while walking, I said, it's time to develop your own story. You cannot have
mm,
other people writing your story for you. And that's when I realized that, hey, I started speaking to quite a number of people here in Philly, and I realized that most people tie their identities to jobs. They do not know
yes.
who they are outside of jobs. When I posted on LinkedIn about my layoff, and mind you, it took me like 3 months to post about it because I was still recollecting my identity,
Understandable.
Yeah, and the DMs, people were sending me DMs on LinkedIn like, hey, I can so relate. And that's where the name Identity Cove came because it started off as an offboarding consultancy.
Oh,
And it was meant to be like a harbor, a safe cove for your identity. That was the meaning behind the name. So yeah, so I just decided to intentionally re rethink my identity around who am I? So I started looking at my hobbies. I never knew I was creative until I started vibe coding, for
ah,
example. You know, there's so many facets to us as human beings, but because of the traditional systems that we are educated under and groomed under, we easily think, go to school, get a job, that
yep,
job becomes you know.
yep,
So I think, yeah, as I started just exploring my interests and taking time off to ask myself many questions, I realized, hey, you are such a multifaceted human being, and it's time to pursue things, even if they don't work out.
yep.
Just pursue things, be curious, be adventurous. Life rewards people who are curious.
I believe in that as well. Um, for those that don't know, what is vibe coding? Vibe coding.
Yeah, so vibe coding is essentially so I'll preface it by saying this. We've previously always known technology products are birthed through a process called coding. And we've always known that process to be spearheaded by software engineers. So vibe coding is basically using natural language, just like the way I'm talking to you right now, and speaking into or typing into these tools your idea. You simply type your idea, and the tool builds a product based on what you say. So, for
Hmm.
example, you'll open a tool, let's say, I'll give an example like Lovable. Lovable is one of the tools. You'll open Lovable and just type, I'd love to build an app for women who are navigating layoffs. This app should give them information by state on what they're entitled to, which office they should go to, contact information, a website, and then you just hit enter. Lovable will then take its time spinning and then produce something for you. Some of them even go as far as even designing, like just by you giving them an idea, it will already come up with a design for you. And then based on what it produces, you can then iterate from there. So you can either tell it, change this color to blue, and then it will make the change, or remove this button from here. I wanted to do this. And then immediately you just see the changes happening in real time. So for beginners, I would say visual vibe coding tools like Lovable do really go a long way. As you get,
I love
oh,
that.
sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, as you get more advanced or more conversant with the tools, you can then use others like Claude Code, which are not as visual per se, but as you just get more conversant, there are still non-technical ways of using more advanced tools like Claude Code, just to build your own stuff. So yeah, and it doesn't always have to be something you take to market. And I'll give an example. I love tea. So with AI, I built a tea sommelier for myself simply because I was tired of getting home and I have a cupboard full of tea. And I was like, some days I get home and I'm like, but I don't want green tea. I want raspberry leaf tea or I want ginger tea, but I just can't explain it because of the mood I'm in. So just by I just say what mood I'm in, and then it will recommend a blend for me, and I can either mix my own teas based on what I have in my cupboard. And I built that for myself and I use it. So,
Very
personal projects,
cool.
professional projects, you can vibe code anything.
Wow. So what are some of the other AI tools that you use besides Lovable? Do you use Manus? That's one of my favorites.
I actually haven't dabbled with Manus yet, but I have heard some
Mm.
people speaking about it. I mainly use Lovable, Replit, and
Oh, okay.
Claude Code. Yeah, those are the main ones that I've been dabbling with.
Mm.
Although it just depends. Like, for example, I recently started trying Codex, which is an
Okay.
open AI platform, just to see how, because some of them can tag team, like it can do one thing in Claude Code and one thing in Codex, just depending on what you're trying to build. So yes,
Mm,
those are the main ones that I use, also
mm,
because they serve different purposes. For
right.
example, Lovable is mainly producing web-based apps, whereas Replit allows you to develop mobile native apps. So it just depends on like what you're looking for, what you're trying to build, etc.
So with Replit, are you able to put those apps in the App Store or the Google Play Store?
Yes. So
Oh.
once you've built it in Replit, you are able to take it and onto a platform called React Native. And I just don't want to get too technical here for your audience.
Hmm, hmm.
But yeah, you can just move it to like a React Native, and then once it's built there, you can then move it to the Play Store.
Wow.
I had gotten close to that, and then just debugging for an app that I'm currently trying to build. And then just the debugging process, I then had to rebuild. So I'm currently rebuilding it on a different, like using Claude
Mm,
Code. Yeah, but otherwise, Replit is still a good platform to build whatever you need to.
love that. Um, I love that you said non-technical professionals were being talked at by tech bros and sold magic shortcuts.
Mhm.
What do you think AI education has become? I mean, why do you think AI education has become so inaccessible for everyday people or professionals?
I think mainly there's a big communications gap when it comes to how the benefits and uses of AI are communicated, especially to non-technical people. So, just based on my HR background, when you're rolling out any system or any change within an organization, the hardest part of anything is the people management side of it, because systems are built to be used by people.
Right,
So trying to get people to adopt these systems and use them and own the processes behind these systems is actually a process. Those are real funded processes within organizations. So now with AI, it has come onto the scene evolving so quickly, and you find that even within organizations, employees are simply being told, use AI, adopt AI. But they're like, to do what? How? Using what?
yeah, they
So
need
there's
to
a
have
lot of
AI training.
yes, and I think it's also being prefaced by a lot of fear mongering. There's a common phrase that floats around the internet, adopt AI or die, in code.
Yeah,
And you find also a lot of employees are now at a point where they're just using AI for the sake of using AI. Sorry, let me just turn off my alarm. So many people are just using AI for the sake of using AI. But I often tell people the best AI outputs come from you knowing exactly what you want to use it for. That's the first step to making it accessible, first for yourself and for your teams. By just giving your teams a mental picture of the understanding, okay, this is your current workflow. Which aspects of your workflow are so repetitive or so boring that a system could take that off of you and give you time, space, and creativity to make your role best suited for you. And then once you do that,
that's so true.
sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, so once you do that, you then find you see an employee lighting up because now they feel empowered. They feel like, oh, because the one thing AI will not do, it's simply a tool, it is not a brain. It is
Right,
trained on data. So AI is actually dumber than you are, contrary to what people have told you. So I think just the communications gap that is often led by fear mongering is what has made it feel so intimidating, when in fact, you don't need all the AI tools. You just need to know, what does my daily routine look like? Which parts can I automate or delegate to AI? And that can easily just be an automation. It doesn't even have to be an agent, because I know
right.
agents are now popular. It can simply just be an automation or a scheduled task.
Hmm. You
Yeah.
know, a lot of companies are afraid to even adapt AI. They're slow to even moving towards that dynamic of AI. Have you experienced that? Companies are afraid to adapt and implement that into their systems?
Yes, and I would say rightfully so to a certain extent. I think because the AI space has evolved so much and is accelerating so quickly, the part that
Mm.
is still lagging behind is the regulatory aspect, the
Yes.
security and compliance aspects. A lot of companies are dealing with very sensitive personal data of their
True.
employees, of their clients. So you find that a company is thinking, and also a lot of these AI models are training themselves on the user's data. So you find that because there's not a lot of transparency, openness, and development around the security, the compliance, and the rail guards that are set around
Right.
systems, there's still just a lot of apprehension, which is expected with anything that is new, you know?
True.
Yes, but there is quite a lot of talk around AI governance, AI ethics. There are ways for you in ChatGPT or Claude to deselect or untrain the models with your data. You can actually choose that, and many people don't know that, so that whatever data you're feeding it is not being used to train its models.
Mm.
Redacting data, if you're using in an organization in HR and you're putting employee information in, making sure that you redact personal identifiers, uh, client information, or your finances, just making sure that anything that is personal to you is not being loaded into these models. Yeah.
That makes sense. Um, for someone listening right now who feels overwhelmed by AI,
Mhm.
how would you explain AI in plain English? So, like, if I'm a business owner, why should I care? Like, what is the biggest misconception and what is the biggest opportunity there?
I would say the for employees, the biggest misconception is that AI is here to take my job.
Mm.
Sorry, I just have a bit of a cough.
Okay.
Um, and I will say that yes, there have been restructurings and downsizings in organizations due to the efficiencies that AI brings into any organization. So I don't want to gloss over that and pretend as if jobs are not being affected. They truly are in a certain way. But in many ways, jobs are also being redefined. Jobs are also being recreated. New jobs are entering the scene. So the opportunity here is the reskilling that employees can get to do, just the upskilling and the reskilling to redefine your role, to create your own role. So, for example, I got laid off and saw an opportunity to say, hey, let me create something for myself. Let me create my own role, which then became an AI strategist and educator. So there are many, and the space is so wide that there's so much room for so many people because there's so many facets. One person could simply be doing AI education, another could be teaching AI automations, another could be teaching
Mm.
AI agents, another could
Yeah.
be doing AI implementation, actually sitting in organizations and plugging in these workflows. So I think I would say that is the main misconception, but veiling strong opportunities in the space. And then for businesses, I would say automating workflows is just one of the biggest ways to get ROI, which is a return on investment. There's Imagine a situation where you have a tool that is automating responses to clients for you. These are clients that ordinarily you would miss out on because they're reaching out, it's a weekend or you're on vacation, they're reaching out and they're only getting a response from you 4 days from now. They are
Right.
they are
Mhm.
dissatisfied with your customer service or the quality of your service. Here is a tool that can act that doesn't go to sleep, that can actually be that first responder for you, your help desk, just giving an example, whereby
Mhm.
you could literally, if as a solo business owner or service business owner, you've been servicing 5 clients at a go, Imagine having a tool taking in responses from you and automating a response to these leads saying, hey, thanks for sending me a message. I'll respond to you in 2 to 4 business days. And then you then have time at the end of your day to sit down and sieve through 20, 30, 40 leads, whereas previously you'd be so overwhelmed because you were doing it yourself. So I think just understanding one, your workflows, which areas are bottlenecks in your organization, and seeing which ones can be automated is just one of the biggest savings that businesses can realize. I will just note here that this does not mean that as the business owner, you are hands off. Remember, I said AI is simply a tool. So it just gives you time to be able to manage this tool. So think of it as your employee. You are no longer just doing the work, but you've hired an employee to do the work for you. And I'm just being a hypothetical situation here. You've hired this employee to do work for you. You are just now oversight. You're overseeing the output.
Yeah,
You're programming the messages that get sent. You are making sure that, hey, you can even put guardrails to say before a message goes out, send me a draft in my email. That way, it does the draft for you, but then you are able to then, your job is just to come and review the draft and then hit send.
I love it. And that is definitely a good tip for businesses and solo business owners and potential AI users.
Mhm.
Um, you mentioned one of your biggest challenges is visibility, and that resonates with so many other founders. How are you navigating building authority without a huge audience?
I will say work in progress. One question I ask myself each day is because I had an on and off relationship with social media even before, before this. But now, visible like an audience has essentially become the currency of any business in operating in this day and age. So I think creating content, be it on my Instagram page, my TikTok page, um, threads, etc., has become something that I have had to just build that muscle and say, hey, no one wakes up thinking of you. You have to let them know you exist, you know?
Right.
So yeah, so I think for me that has been an area of stretching. Um, because it's a year of curiosity and adventure, I've just had to do it, even
Oh,
when many days it can be quite overwhelming, etc. So I think that's an area that it's still an area of development for me.
okay.
Yeah, but I would say that definitely visibility is one of the biggest levers that I've heard even more advanced AI educators say is a big
Mm,
bonus for any business. Yeah.
it is. How do you stay encouraged?
So I'm a Christian, in terms of faith. So I just the reading the Word of God, prayer, a strong community of friends, who I can lean on in times when I'm feeling discouraged and just say, hey, business is tough, or hey, I'm not feeling motivated today. I think, yeah, and I think I'm also a reader. I read a lot. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I love listening to particularly stories of people who started from nothing, zero to hero.
Mm, I love those stories.
Those stories motivate me so much. So I'm always either watching a YouTube interview or listening to a podcast around just building, especially women building.
Yeah.
Those are just some of my favorites. But yeah, that's just how I encourage myself. Walking too. I love taking long walks, especially in the warmer months. And I just feel like on walks, I get my best ideas. I realize how big nature just always reminds me how small I am in compared to everything else, and just motivates me that,
Mm.
hey, you can literally just go and do anything you want in this life. So yeah, spending time in nature definitely helps a lot.
So spending time in nature, CEOS era is rooted in self-first leadership. And you said self-first for you is not a ritual, it's structural. And that really stood out to me. Can you unpack that? What does self-first leadership look like in real life for you? Is it boundaries? Is it pricing, clients, energy, management, or just that taking that walk first?
Yes, I strongly believe that I can't pour into everyone else if I haven't poured into myself first. So I think that that would be number one, just making sure that my cup is filled. And it varies on different days. Some days you are pouring from an empty cup simply because a client needs to be serviced or this needs to be done. Not everything will wait for you to be fully poured
Right.
into. But for the most part, I do try to have routines around my mornings. I try to have routines around my time just to ensure that mentally I'm not scattered. The
Mm.
second biggest thing for me is alignment. One of my mantras in my life is the money is not worth it if I cannot look at myself in the mirror at the end of the day. And so I've always felt like I pursue opportunities that are aligned to my values, aligned to what I believe in. Um, and that's why I just sometimes even do a lot of free stuff for people because I truly believe
Oh,
in sharing value. I don't believe in gating everything. Yes, some parts of your skills do need to be gated, but sometimes just helping another person, and just
yes.
seeing someone else empowered is so fulfilling. So yeah, alignment. Like I recall very recently, and mind you, I don't even have a large audience, but very recently, a brand reached out to me to partner with me. And unfortunately, we were not aligned.
Oh, okay. I know what you mean by that. Mm.
Yes, we're not aligned based on the outputs that they wanted or the way they wanted me to, implement the content they wanted. And so I had to let it go. When you're an entrepreneur or when you're building something solo, every penny counts. But in that moment,
Yes.
I had to say, hey, yes, you're early in business. Yes, all forms of revenue right now are important. But I don't want to create content that I don't resonate with just for the
Yes.
sake of getting a quick buck. So I
Yep.
think that's the structural piece for me. It's, hey, being intentional and applying myself every day to, hey, are you pouring from a full cup? And two, are you aligned with the opportunities that you're saying yes to?
I love that. So before we get out of here, um, if women are listening and they feel behind in tech, behind in business, behind in life, what would you say to her or them?
I would say something that my dad said to me 3 years ago. I was feeling stuck, feeling purposeless in the 9 to 5 life, wondering when I'd get to realize my dream of building my own thing and stuff. And I remember wanting to start a t-shirt business. And then before that, so I called my parents and I just said to them, what's the worst case scenario? What's the worst that could happen? As at the time I was thinking I was in a job that I wanted to quit. So I then say, okay, assuming I quit, the worst case is I quit, struggle to pay my rent, go homeless. I'm just throwing around these scenarios. And then my dad chimes in and says, no, the worst case scenario is you dying.
Oh,
As long as you're alive, you will make a plan. As long as you're alive, you can wake up and decide to change your circumstances. As long as you're alive, you can try. So never look at anything. As long as you've got breath, there's no worst case scenario. Everything is simply an event. And when I tell you that changed my brain chemistry so much and altered the way I look at challenges now. Like I now look at challenges as events. I just
hmm.
merely say, hey, just like the sun rises and sets at the end of the day, surely this event too will pass. It may take longer than you want to. And that mindset helped me so much when I was going through a dark time after my layoff,
Mm.
wondering what was next. Every day, I would look at myself in the mirror and say, you've still got breath. You can do something. You've still got breath. You can change your circumstances. You've still got breath. Yes, you can. So, to any women out there who are feeling stuck, I would say I've been there before. There's no event in this life. Yes, some are bad, but as long as you've got breath, motivate yourself, put one foot in front of the other. Yes, you can, and yes, you will.
That was a great message. Thank you to your dad. And thank you for sharing that.
You.
That was definitely inspiration right there. As long as you have breath, you are not dead. So none of that other stuff matters. I don't care how bad it is, how sad you are. As long as you have breath, you have you have good health,
Hmm.
there's nothing stopping you. It's gonna pass. Everything, the sun always shines in the end. It's gonna rain. It's
Yeah.
always gonna rain. It's gonna
Oh, yeah.
storm. It's gonna have lightning, thundering, but it always ends and the sun always comes back out at some point. So as long as you have breath to continue to press forward, I love that message. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Um, Before we go, please share how people can get in contact with you, your business, and they can learn more about you.
Yes, so you can reach me on LinkedIn, my name, Kuzhani Koketso, on Instagram, at Identity Cove, that Cove is Cove, on TikTok at identity.cove. My website is www.identitycove.com. So yeah, hop onto my website, send me a DM. I have a contact form on my website. Reach out, available for opportunities to speak, a workshop, or to train your teams or you on whatever you need.
I love it. What an incredible conversation. I hope today's discussion reminded you that you do not need a technical degree, permission, or perfect timing to begin building. You can start where you are right now. So, as Kuzani, remind us AI does not have to be overwhelming. It can be a tool that helps you think better, move smarter, and create more intention. And thank you for joining us for another episode of CEO's Era Conversations powered by Boss Woman Network. If this conversation impacted you, share it with another woman, leader, or who needs to hear it. And if you're ready to build smarter systems, automation, AI, inside your business, connect with me, connect with Kuzani through her organization or through CEOs Era Conversations, our experience where we help entrepreneurs create systems that support sustainable growth. But remember, you do not need to hustle yourself into exhaustion to succeed. You can lead differently and you can build smarter and you can put yourself first. And we will see you in the next conversation. And thank you again for joining me. This was a great conversation. You left with some great tips, and I appreciate you for joining me today. And you have a wonderful Saturday and weekend.
Thank you so much, Leilani. Definitely wishing you the same too.
Okay, bye.
Bye.